So I have to say thank you very much for inviting me to be here. Susan, my sister in Harley Davidson and boots, cowboy boots, because we both have this fascination and love for our cowboy boots. San Antonio, a couple weeks ago I got these. So I've been traveling a whole lot lately. And last week I found myself in India, and I was in Bangalore, and I was on a layover there. And I was thinking about speaking today to all of you. This story came to mind, and it's something that happened back in 1995, and my ex-husband was stationed in Korea on a hardship tour. So he was planning on coming back to visit, so I got all excited, and I went to the store, and I bought this beautiful black dress. I mean, it was sleeveless, it was form-fitting, it flared out at the bottom, and it had a row of buttons all the way down the back. So the day came when I was going to go and pick him up. I got in my car in New Hampshire, and I drove down to Boston, to Logan International Airport, and I got there, and back then we could go straight to the gate. You know, this was 1995. It was so exciting. We could wait for our loved ones to get off that plane, and it was just so exciting. And so I'm walking through the airport, and I'm thinking, dang, everybody is looking at me. Like, heads are swiveling. I'm thinking I am rocking this dress, absolutely rocking it. So I get to the gate, and I realize I'm there just a little bit early. So I thought I'll go back to the restroom and freshen up a little bit, and as I open up the doors, there's a ceiling-to-floor mirror, and I walk in, and I'm like, dang, you really are rocking this dress. You look great. You are looking amazing. And then as I come around the corner, I catch my reflection in the side, and my heart just drops. Because I realize that with the exception of about 3 buttons on the top and about 5 buttons on the bottom, the entire back of my dress has opened up. All the buttons are done. So I'm walking through the airport, and I'm thinking I'm looking all awesome. People are looking at me because I look great. They're not looking at me because I look great. They're looking because my butt is hanging out for everybody to see in that airport. It was horrifying. And in that moment, my world just stopped. I was so mortified, so embarrassed. Yeah, I felt like my world stopped. Which made me think of another time when I walked through a set of doors and my world just stopped. My son was born in 2002, this perfect little nugget of a guy, black hair, big blue eyes, just perfect. But at about 6 weeks of age, I noticed that there was something off. And he slept all the time. He slept like a cat. He slept like, 16, 18 hours a day. And everybody thought, oh, this is awesome. He's this great little baby. And I'm thinking, I just kind of feel like something's a little bit off here. So when we went to our well child check at 6 weeks, I talked to my pediatrician about it. And his name was Doug. And Doug said, Suzy, I'm not really worried about it. He might be a tiny bit behind the curve, but I trust your mother's intuition. So let's send him up to Dartmouth-Hitchcock, to the pain-free clinic, and get him a CT scan to see if everything's okay. Fine, let's do it. So a week or 2 later, we pack him up, go up there, and when you walk into the pain-free clinic at the Children's Hospital at Dartmouth-Hitchcock, it's this magical place because they're geared towards alleviating the stress and the anxiety that these children they're feeling when they're about to have a procedure. It's bright, it's colorful, the nursing staff is wonderful. So we get there, they give us a pager, and they say, okay, 30 minutes, that's all that this should take, right? Okay. Go down, get some breakfast. No page. Okay. Went up to the gift shop. No page. And so after about an hour and 15 minutes, we decided, let's just go ahead and go back up and see what's going on. So we did that. We walked in, and I swear to you, it was like we were walking into the wrong unit. We opened those doors, And it was like somebody sucked all of the life out of that unit. Like someone took a wet blanket and just put it over. So I knew right then and there that something was amiss. So the nurse comes and she says, well, we decided to do an MRI instead of a CT scan because if something was abnormal on the CT scan, then we would go ahead and do an MRI anyways. All right, no worries on that. So then they bring our son out. He's none the worse for wear. He doesn't know what's going on. He's all happy. And then I see the radiologist coming out behind him. And I notice initially the first thing that was a big red flag was that he wouldn't get any eye contact with me. Nothing. Okay? And then he wouldn't tell us anything. Just real vague kind of answers, which I understand the protocol would be that he would tell the pediatrician if there was bad news, so the pediatrician would be taking the bullet, having to deliver that information, right? But it seemed really dire, so I just grabbed his arms and I made him look at me, and I just said, is he okay? And believe me when I tell you this, there's nothing that prepares you for the news that your child is going to die. Just nothing. And that's what he did. 5 years later. So I had 5 years. And then, 14 years after that, I got a call that, again, stopped my world. And that was a call telling me that they found my daughter's body in Portland, Oregon, in a hotel, dead. The world stopped. Again. But believe it or not, I'm not here to really talk about my dead kids. I'm not. I'm here to talk about gratitude, God's grace, and the beginning of a gratitude journey that has brought me to my knees on numerous occasions, but also has brought me to this place right here. It's about surviving our stories and being able to pass on and give people hope that there is still so much joy. That's what this is about. This is what it's about. This is what the series is about. It's about joy and learning how to find joy and finding our way back to joy. So I live in the woods of New Hampshire. Our house is surrounded by woods. It's gorgeous. It's God's country. Over and over again, unless it's mud season, it's just the most amazing place to live. And one of my favorite things is in the summertime when the canopy of leaves in the trees is so thick that very little light comes through, that forest. But these tiny little threads of light are able to fight their way through those leaves, and they make it to the ground. And they are just so incredibly magical to me. And I think one of the reasons for that is when I was a little girl, I had this illustrated Bible. And there was one picture in there that just captivated me, and I can still see it in my head. And it was a picture of a cemetery. And in this picture, there's these beautiful thunderhead clouds, and the streams of light were coming down. And the streams of light came down and were going to each individual plot within that cemetery. And out of each plot, obviously they're not really watching, it's showing these families, couples, individuals coming up out of their cemetery plots. They're all beautifully dressed, and it must have been done in the 50s or 60s because this one family, mother, father, the mom had this beautiful little dress on with a pillbox hat. They're ascending up into heaven on these magical rays of light that are coming down. And I think that that's why they're magical to me. Those moments of light piercing through the darkness, they are the perfect metaphor for my grief journey. That's the gratitude. Those points of light are the gratitude on my grief journey, which got me through. There was a 5-year span between when I walked through those doors in the hospital and when my son passed away. And I was so fortunate to have that time. I had 5 years with that perfect little man, that totally imperfect, perfect little man. No part of his body worked, nothing. He could not eat, he could not swallow, he could not see, he could not speak, he could not crawl, he could not say, "Mommy," nothing. But for all of his disability, he was just this powerful little man. He was awesome. Anyone who was around him just felt peaceful and just felt the strength from him. He was just absolutely amazing. Of course, I get sidetracked on that. I had the opportunity to engage in anticipatory grief, meaning I was able to go through the whole gamut of emotions prior to him passing away. So when he died, it wasn't the world-stopping moment that you would think it would be. It wasn't. It was one of the most miraculous experiences I've ever had in my life. And I've said this a million times over the last 20 years. If I could relive 4 things in my life, it would be the birth of my 3 children and the death of my son. Because that night was so miraculous. Oh gosh, it was absolutely amazing. I know it's weird that you would hear me say that, but he had been in and out of the hospital a million times. And about several months prior to him passing away, we decided no more hospital. No more hospital. We had the medical equipment at home. We had nurses in our house 5 days a week. We had everything we needed. So I came home from work one day, and he was coughing. Pneumonia was his thing. That's why he would go back in and out of the hospital, coughing way more than normal. Call up my ambulance friends, because at that point, we were friends. They knew us so well. And went up to the hospital, met with our pediatrician, who was a great friend at that point. And he did a chest x-ray, sits us down and says, "Here's the deal. Yeah, he has pneumonia again, but this time he also has fluid on the outside of his lungs as well. So that's called pleural effusion. And I can take it off, but here's what you need to know. Number 1, he might not make it through the procedure." Okay, so there's one piece of information. And if he does make it through it, he will never be extubated again for the rest of his life. And he knew our answer at that point, because comfort and dignity, that was all we wanted for him during his life. So he knew, was like, no, thank you, we're not going to go that route. But I swear, no bells or whistles were going off at this point in time. Nothing, because he was such a little fighter. That was his superpower. He fought back every single time. And so he just said, "Yep, pack him up, take him home. I'll see you in a couple days." All right. We did that, went home, got some Subway. We were living in an apartment in the New London Inn because we were in the process of building a house for him, a handicap-accessible home for him. And it had 2 stories, and it had this hinky old, 70s spiral staircase, one of those metal ones that's like, oh gosh, they're awful. But carrying him up and down that was always a real big challenge. So I decided that night, for the first time in his life, that we were going to sleep together. So pulled out the futon, and we snuggled in, and I'm watching a movie, and we fall asleep. And then at about 5:40 in the morning, we wake up. I wake up, he wakes up, and I'm just laying there, and I'm rubbing his head. And his breath is so deep and strong. And as I'm rubbing it, I'm noticing that the breaths are just getting a little bit farther apart from each other, and a little farther, until they just stopped. And his spirit ascended into heaven. And as a mother, there is no better gift in that moment, that I was with him. He waited for me. God had his hand on us in that 12 hours. I never had to wonder or worry if he was up in his room crying out for me in pain. I never, ever had to worry about that. And I felt so much gratitude in that moment to my son, to God, to the whole situation. It was, as far as it goes, if you're going to lose a child, you just can't script it any better than that. I'm not trying to be a Weisenheimer, but you can't. Cameron's death, on the other hand, cloaked in darkness, evil, horrid, I'll never have any clarity. I will never have answers to the questions that I needed. And that took me to a super dark place, really dark place. I had this amazing experience with my son, and all of a sudden, I've lost, it's not supposed to happen 2 times, right? Lightning isn't supposed to strike twice, but it did in this case. So, after Cameron died, I found myself in such a place that I needed answers. It was so dark, and I was in peril. I didn't know how I was going to get out of this. I went online, several forums online, and lots of chat groups and things like that. And what I found there was grief residents, people who were stuck. And that's not what I needed. I needed a handout. I needed help to get out of that situation. So I started doing research. I started doing research beyond Kubler-Ross and Kessler's work. I really started digging in, reading all sorts of stuff, listening to podcasts, everything. And what I found, the common thread in all of that was gratitude. And gratitude for me became those little moments of light poking through the trees, taking me down. It helped me balance so much. Research has shown that gratitude can play a significant role in the grieving process by helping individuals find meaning, improving emotional well-being, and navigating the complex emotions that accompany loss. Over and over and over again, Journal of Positive Psychology, Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, Health Psychology, I could go on and on. Everything talked about gratitude and how that was the key component to navigating through grief in a healthy way and helping people get unstuck. Grief and gratitude are 2 sides of the same coin, right? Grief reveals what we've lost. The deeper the love, the deeper the loss. The deeper the investment, the deeper those feelings of loss. Gratitude, on the other hand, keeps us grounded by reminding us what's right in front of us, right? What we have to be thankful for right here, right now. All of you. My beautiful daughter, my husband, my dad. It also allows us to remember what we've lost and pick the pieces from that situation that we are grateful for, that we had that experience. I feel so fortunate because I was the mom of these 2 amazing children, both of them so different, taught me so many different things. I feel so lucky. I would rather have my kids for 5 years and for 20 years than not at all, right? I wish they were still with me, but they're not. As humans, you and I, we all experience loss, right? Every single day. Shadow loss, we've got loss of relationships, loss of a job, loss of our health, loss of a dream. You wanted your life to go in one particular direction, all of a sudden it's not going to go that way. That's a significant loss, right? Research shows that naming things that you are grateful for can reduce emotional stress. I already said that, right? But research also shows that gratitude can open up pathways of healing in your heart. How they know that, I have no idea. I don't know. But sign me up, because that sounds really good. I want healing pathways in my heart. I think that sounds wonderful. Practicing gratitude helps restore balance and emotional equilibrium. Think about it. When we're so stuck in our grief, in our loss, in our feelings, it's all over here, I'm all stuck. We start to balance it out with a little bit of gratitude and a little bit of light as it's coming down. pretty much before you know it, if you're practicing it on a regular basis, it starts to open up lots of different tunnels of light, and we start to have some balance. I want to make sure that we're also not confusing gratitude with toxic positivity. We're not trying to ignore our grief and the feelings that go along with our grief. We can't do that. We have to honor those feelings. We have to honor those feelings. We can't go over them or around them or under them. We've got to go straight through them. But we also have to allow space for the rays of light to penetrate through the darkness. In the context of losing 2 of my 3 children, gratitude is my path to refuge. It really is. It takes me where I need to go, when I need to go there. When I find myself going down that path, I think about what I'm grateful for, the gratitude that I have for the people who are solid in my life, the gratitude for God's beauty all around me every single day, the gratitude for the good fortune that I've had in my life and for being my kids' moms. So how do we do it? I mean, it sounds really simplistic. You start each day, you write out a list of things you're grateful for. At the end of the day, maybe you might write a list of what went well that day. Let's start to focus in on some things that are positive that are happening amidst all of our grief. You can put a rubber band around your wrist. Snap it every time you find yourself going down that dark path, and then write something down that you're grateful for. You can isolate the situation and the loss that you've experienced and pull out those things that you are grateful for. Keep a running list. You can write a gratitude letter to a person that you might have lost. Healing is an intentional process. Time does not heal all of our wounds, right? Time does absolutely nothing but tick by. Absolutely. It doesn't do squat unless we choose to take control of our healing journey. And that is there, right there, is the difference between being a grief resident and a grief tourist. I'm big on tourism. I don't want to stay there. I don't want to stay there. And I don't think anybody in here wants to stay there either. But I think sometimes we feel powerless to do anything about it. By intentionally practicing gratitude during our times of grief, we can find moments of peace amid the pain as we allow the lights of gratitude to penetrate through. Do not let darkness overcome you. You have to let those the rays of light penetrate through, because you don't want to be a grief resident. And I think that's something we forget, that we've got the power to change that. As you leave here today, embrace the moments of joy in your life. Embrace the moments of gratitude in your life. Be willing. You have to be willing. You have to be open to it. You have to open your eyes and see what's going on around you. Take the time to appreciate the golden people in your life, the small things of comfort in your life. The strength that you have within you to get through these situations, and God's beauty that surrounds you every moment of every day when you look around and open your eyes to it. And that is the first step on the journey back to joy after your grief. Thank you. That's it. Thank you. Namaste, namaste.